Um, Virginia is the one that I understand if people get a little like, is that really the South? Is it the North?
Yeah, like what they call
Um,
like Delmarva.
yeah, but like North Carolina is 100%. Like Tennessee's the South, and we're on the same latitude line as Tennessee. Our borders are the same latitude lines. So if people want to say Nashville's the South, you got to say Raleigh's the South because we're literally the same place. Um, but yeah, I think Virginia can get a little icky. West Virginia can get a little icky. Like, I don't know how people decide it. Kentucky, but like Kentucky, I think Kentucky's the South, and Kentucky is way more north than North Carolina is. But you're going to tell me that the place that the bluegrass state is a northern territory? Like, no, absolutely not. Um, just because we have northern, I think that confuses people. The public education system in most states failed people because they hear the word north and they're like, oh, it must be a northern state. And it's like, no, it's like anything below DC kind of for me is the South, technically. The Mason-Dixon line is I guess what has historically separated it. So I
Yeah.
think North Carolina's in a pretty good spot. But when I open my mouth, nobody has ever said, wow, you must be from the North. Like, nobody's ever mistaken me for being like a northerner. Like, they've always know exactly like, what part of the South are you from?
It just remind me of I probably uh I can't sound different, but I can choose different words. Is that like
100%, 100%. Like this is me talking. When you put me back home with my brother and my dad, give me 10 minutes being around them, and I turn into fucking Boomhauer from like King of the Hill. Like, my wife thinks it's the craziest thing because she's like, I know you, like, you're my husband, like, I know how you sound. The minute I get around my father and my brother, I immediately turn into this man. I'm like, man, how you, man, and I think that my accent has gotten like way better, like way more understandable. The more that I've lived in a city, I've traveled the world, I've talked to other people. I think my voice is assimilated a little bit. But the minute you put me back in my hometown, I sound like the most redneck human being you've ever met in your life.
that's funny. That my cousins are they're from Boston, and even though they've been in Florida for decades, they come up and once they get together, it's just like, hey man, just because it ends in an A doesn't mean you have to add all those
Oh,
R's.
dude,
You know?
wicked dingus over the
Yeah,
monster.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my
I,
khakis. Your khakis?
but
Your
I
pants?
love that though. I love regional dialect. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm some people spend their entire life running from their accent. Like, my wife's from Long Island, and she moved away when she was 6, so she doesn't really have the accent. But all of her sisters, her mother, her aunts, they all have the traditional Long Island accent. And it's just so funny to me because, like, they've lived in Florida now for 20, 30 years. Still might as well be in like West Islip. It's just, it's thick. And same thing, Boston friends. They come down here, they go to school, they marry a redneck, they raise a redneck. But the minute they start talking about the Red Sox, like, it comes out. It comes out.
It's funny. And I do love your accent. I do love that. It it's funny. Like one of my uncles is down. He he's the kind of uncle like he'll tell you he lives in the Carolina. I can't remember if it was north or south. And like he made his house so like his guest room doesn't have a bathroom, so you don't feel comfortable to stay that long.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just funny. You probably would get along with him because I it's funny like how like all of a sudden like he's like smoking meats, getting in the barbecue because from talking from Bill from he's from around this area like pulled pork and brisket is a totally different situation up here. It's
Way different.
it's it's crazy. Like when I told people from like Texas and all the scenes, they're like, "You don't like barbecue? You don't like?" I'm like, "No, like I don't like sweet sauces." And they're like, "What do you mean sauce? What do you mean
Yeah.
sauces?" And
You
it
only, you only, you only use sauce if something's wrong.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. You don't need, if it's done right, you don't need any sauce.
It's just like where's the line of where people like know how to cook it and not? It's just when they handed me like the brisket in Texas like it was a candy bar. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is different. And we would put vinegary sauce on it. It'd be like a soup. And I'm like, this is what I was like so mad. I'm like, you know what? I think
was
I love
so
barbecue.
mad.
Yeah. And it's funny is like, I did a Facebook post of, you know, like BJ's going to be on the podcast and I can't remember. It's funny. Like if not Mike in the Moon Pie, Silverado, it's Rossi who he wanted to say, like, ask him why Eastern or Western barbecue is better than the other. And
so North Carolina, we're lucky because we're one of the only states that have two very distinct barbecue styles. And there's a line right down the middle of the state. You got Western, you got Eastern. Western sometimes get referred to as Lexington style barbecue. And they're both vinegar-based sauces, but one of them is a lot more tomato in it and a lot more sugar. So it's like a sweeter sauce. Like Eastern North Carolina traditionally is just vinegar and crushed red pepper. And it's amazing. Like, but as somebody who's born in technically the Western North Carolina barbecue map, I love both of them. And a lot of people, especially in the state of North Carolina, that's fighting words. Like, you can't pick both. And I'm just like, they're both pretty delicious. And I'm the same guy who, you know, I love North Carolina pork. But like when I go to Texas, like I've never had anything like brisket. Like Texas brisket is like, it will change your life. If you eat at the right place, it will completely change everything you know about meat. Because I was one of those guys who's like, whether it's Eastern or Western North Carolina, nobody does barbecue better than North Carolina. Like we're the best. Like, and then I realized like we're just the best at pork. I was like, I completely left off another kind of barbecue. And Texas is the king of beef. And so now people always ask me, like, what's your favorite kind of barbecue? I'm like, beef or pork? You got to pick. And then I'll tell you where to get the best barbecue. But those Texans, man, I'll argue till the day I die. Like, it's just the best Texas barbecue, the best Texas brisket is just as good as any of the best North Carolina pork I've ever had. And I know that's going to hurt some people's feelings, but that's the truth of it all. As someone who has traveled and I think it's very fair to say that I've eaten more barbecue than 99% of any human being alive. Like I've ate at like 38 of the Texas top 50. I've done the North Carolina barbecue trail. Every time I go to Memphis or Kansas City or South Carolina, like I try whatever the local barbecue fair is. And I'm lucky because our fans know how much I love barbecue. Everybody tells me this is where you got to go. This is where you got to go. This is where you got to go. And so I'll go try. If like the first time we went to Memphis, me and Shane got to Memphis for lunch. We did 4 different barbecue restaurants for lunch. And we just went around and ordered like a plate and shared it. Went to the next place. Plate, shared it. Plate, shared it. And like that's how that's the best part about touring for me is like the shows are fun, the clubs are fun, the fans are fun. I get to eat all the food. And in the South, there ain't nobody that does food like this. There's 2 things that we've got that nobody else has. Nobody does music better than we do, and nobody does food better than we do. It's just it's simple. Like everybody everywhere, like the big cities up north got culture. Like y'all got the culture. But when it comes to food and music, like the South wins every single time. And when people come down here, like it's a badge of honor for me. Because when I have friends who go to a town, they're like, hey, I'm in Birmingham. Where should I eat? And like that is a big responsibility. And I take that very seriously. So I'll make these lists. I'm like, well, for coffee, go here. For breakfast, go here. For lunch, if you're in the mood for this, go here. If you're in the mood for that, for dinner, I rank it from casual to like really nice sit down. And people were just like, you never miss. And I was like, no. I was like, because I did all the missing. So you don't have to. I went and tried all the mediocre places so that you don't have to.
That's funny. A lot of the stories that Bill will talk about, you know, being with you is going into like a barbecue shed, and he was talking about the white building with pie spray painted.
Oh, he's talking about Arkansas. He's talking about Craig's Barbecue in Duval's Bluff, Arkansas. It's a place called Craig's Barbecue, and across the street from it is a white center block painted building that says pies. And there was this tiny old lady back there who every day she'd make 6 or 7 pies, and you'd walk in and it'd just be written on a piece of cardboard. It's like chocolate, coconut, buttermilk, and then you pick. And like some days you'd pick, and she's like, I'm out of that. And you're like, well, what do you have? She's like, all I got left is this. And you get it because it's the greatest. It's transcendent, man. It's like, and it's $3 a slice, and it's this 90-year-old lady making you these pies like she's been doing for 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, but it's never going to be on a map. It's never going to be on a food list. But you walk into that place, and God knows it has to be like a C sanitation grade. But like, I don't care. Like, the food is that good. And Bill was always my guy. No matter what the place was, no matter how weird it looked, no matter how the reviews were, if somebody said it was good, me and Bill would seek it out. And Bill's my guy. Bill's my guy. Like, I love that dude to death. And shout out to Bill Corbin. He's one of the best human beings I've ever had the chance to meet. And our traveling days together were, I can't tell most of the stories on a podcast, but one of my dearest friends in this life, and just about every season of my life, he's been there for it. And I'm so proud to still call him a friend. Hell, 20 plus years after meeting him.
Yeah. Yeah. But the first time I had, I hope I don't mispronounce it, elotes was.
Yeah.
I went out to dinner with Bill. I got what Bill got because I know the stories.
You can never go wrong with that. Never go wrong. Just order what I'll have what he's at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I ever go back to Texas, I want to go there and have it because he was right. He was like, "This is the best elotes you're ever gonna have." And I'm like, "Well, I never had it, so."
Oh yeah, it's very, very good.
Yeah, I just like, he says, "Well, this is why I'm this big, so I can eat more."
Yeah. Well, Bill's lucky because Bill gets to eat and then just work out and get just gigantic. Yeah. Most people, if they ate what Bill ate, they're in the top 2% of the most obese human beings on the face of the planet. Bill turns it into just mass, just straight up mass.
Has there ever been a meal that you'd be like, I got to write a song about this?
A couple. There's places that change my life. There's meals that you eat that, like, every single time I come through town, I'm gonna go there. I'm like, there's no question of, and it would be like, if you give me the town, I'll tell you like where to eat. And for me though, I tend to write a lot about home. I'm very nostalgic, and so a lot of my favorite meals aren't the best meals I've ever had. It's just the meals I had growing up that defined what a meal was for me. So, like, there's a place in Reidsville, North Carolina. That's where I'm from. I spent the first 18 years of my life there. It's a place called Short Sugar's Barbecue. And it's not the best barbecue in the world. It's not the best barbecue in the state. But it's the best barbecue in Reidsville, North Carolina. Because it's the only barbecue in Reidsville, North Carolina. So growing up, it was my definition of barbecue. And it was so good. And then I traveled the world and I got to eat, I've got to taste barbecue directly off the pit from some of the greatest pit masters in North Carolina and Texas. And to this day, if you ask me on the right day, I'm like, you know what I could really go for right now? Short Sugar's Barbecue. Because the minute I taste it, it's home. Yeah. And every time the boys, anybody who's ever been in this band, if we get within an hour of my hometown, we take a detour and I make them eat at Short Sugar's Barbecue because it's such a definitive part of who I am. It's one of those foods that, like, literally. And so there's a song, "Waking Up the Echoes" off Chickamaucomico. Is I can't help but laugh about all the trouble that we got in the back of that Short Sugar's parking lot. And that's just about growing up and going there on a Friday night, drinking cold beer when you shouldn't be drinking cold beer in the car, and then going inside and just eating a big old plate of barbecue to try to sober up to drive to Greensboro to go have a night out.
Yeah, it was, Milwaukee's Best Light. Milwaukee's Best.
Yeah, Milwaukee's Best.
This song. That song. Yeah,
that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one. Yeah,
I kind of thought going in it would be, but man, it's just you caught me.
Yeah. Well, you realize, yes, that song is about a very definitive person or a situation or a time in my life. But what you have to realize as a songwriter is you can write very seriously and very specific about something. And then the minute somebody else hears that, they replace the face that you have in your mind with somebody else's face. And instead of me just thinking about my friend, when you hear it, you think about somebody that you've lost. Yeah. Or you think about some childhood friend that's gone too soon. And then that song isn't just BJ singing anymore. That's BJ singing about the friend that you lost. And that's the power of art. That's the power of music. That's the power of, we take these songs about very specific things, and then we insert the pieces of our life into it that make it relatable. Like, it's like you have this light, and all we're doing is sliding these gels over it to make it a different color. And so, like, this one white light can be 20 different stories for 20 different people. And that's the beauty of creating art, especially when you're creating something that's honest, that taps into something real, is people can put it over whatever situation they're going in. And like I said, a song that I wrote about something very, very specific might have 20 different meanings to 20 different people. And that's my favorite thing about songwriting, is once I cut that thing loose out in the wild, it's not mine anymore. It's not just my story about this one thing. It's whatever somebody needs it to be whenever they hear it at the right moment. And by right moment, we've all been in that situation where you're riding down the road and all of a sudden a song comes on, you're just like, oh, like why am I feeling this right now? Like, obviously that guy who wrote the song didn't write it for you, but there's something about the honesty in which he wrote it about that resonated with you, and it triggered something inside of you, and it made you think about something, whether it's your mom or that girlfriend that got away or somebody that you lost. Like, and then immediately you're like, that's like, how did this guy write about something that's so personal? And it's because at the beginning of it, the genesis of this song is an honest, personal song.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, I'm still like new to the game with it, and it's just, I'm starting to get why people, will be like, this music changed my life. This music did this, and it just made me like stop and it was like, what did I have? Because like it is such a, it's a big deal. Like, listening to your music the other day, I'm like, it's sad, but but it's very rewarding. Of even like you said, like you're not there, but you're having a moment with somebody, like you said, like you can put it in words with in that space, in that song, for those people of maybe they can't do that, and you're obviously, you're uh, awesome at it, and it's just, man, like listening to music differently has been like very rewarding. And like now when I go in and I do it, I never heard it before, there's a bunch of people, and you're definitely one of them, that like I'll be like, gotta focus on the lyrics, because like you got it, it's what the song's about, like you said. And it took a little while for me to realize that, but man, it's been a very rewarding experience to have that, because now, like, you have songs, if like like your song Crier, it kind of like incorporate, some people don't want to vent their problems to somebody else.
Yeah.
And if music can do that, like, because some people would never go to a therapist, like, on purpose, and if they can find something like that, and it doesn't even have to be something like so like depressing or whatnot. It could be like just having like you're burned out, like you had a bad relationship, and it just to find stuff like that. Because it's funny, it's like I was feeling burned out from social media. That's why I like my content's been a little bit weird, And then I was talking to the West Texas Exiles about, they're like, man, social media, it's a lot. And it's like, sometimes we don't, what do you get at it? And he was like, he was, I don't know if you know American Aquarium is, but BJ just put out a big thing about, like, what's the point? And I was like, oh, I saw it.
Yeah.
And I get it. I've been there, and I've always said, like, I have a pretty big platform, and I'm like, I'll do it I'll do it for you. I have, you know what I mean? I have no problem. That's what I want to do. And I get it. Like, I don't want you making videos when I can miss out on a song. I can miss out on, new
Yeah.
music.
So much of what we do now as artists is they're trying to make, because there's content creators,
Yeah.
and I got plenty of friends. That's what they do. That's how they make their living. Like, it's fucking awesome. But what record labels and what social media is trying to force artists to do is also be content creators. And I think there's some bands that can do it, and they do it well, but I will argue that the art will always suffer when you're trying to create art for content. When
Yeah.
you're trying to create something like, and I've just never been that guy. The most I've ever tried to do is like play a song on my acoustic guitar in front of like, this is about as contenty as I get. Is I'm going to sit
Yeah.
here in front of a screen. I'm going to play you a song that I wrote, and hopefully you like it. But then it got to the point where it's like, well, unless you're putting money behind ads to push this to people, they're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, why am I creating it? Like, if the people that are if the people are following me, because you'll look at the things, they'll show you the analytics of it. And it's like 90% of the people that watch your videos are non-followers. And it's like, well, I didn't make that for the non-followers. I made it for the people that like my music. Like, how do I
Yeah.
get it to them? So it took me a really long time. And finally this year, I've really taken a step back. Like, I'm not putting anything personal up on like my main page. My stories, I still post some of the like day-to-day fun stuff. But like all my main pages, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, is just, here's show announcements. Uh, here's where we're going to be next week. Here's a new shirt design, whatever. Like, I got tired of just like putting so much of myself out into the world, and the people that like actually wanted to see it aren't seeing it. And so
Yeah.
now, I'm spending less than an hour a day on my phone. Like, I'm in a much better place. Like, I'm not responding to assholes on the internet. I'm not putting up content and then having someone tell me whether they like it or not, or whether I'm an idiot or not, or whether,
Yeah.
calling me names or whatever. It's like, I'm tired of putting so much energy out into the world, energy that could be used for something way cooler than just trying to get like, man, how do I get people to see this video of me playing this song that's already on a record? It's like, fuck, how about I just focus on making records? And now, now that I've started this Patreon page, like, that's where that hour a day I spend on my phone goes into that.
Yeah.
And it goes directly into a community of people that I know want to be there. And as soon as I make a post, I know that those people are seeing it. Like, I don't know, there's a free membership, and then you can pay for membership and get different kind of perks or whatever. But like, at least I know that when I make a post, like, every single person that wants to see it's going to see it.
Yeah.
And so I told myself, I'm like, I'm willing to give an hour out of my day to like letting people in to this life, letting people into my space. But like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a songwriter. I'm not a content maker. The only content that I really care about making anymore is every 2 years I want to put out a record, like a tangible piece of content, something you can hold in your hand, drop the needle, and disappear for 45 minutes. And maybe you hear a song that changes your life. Maybe you hear a song that for 2 minutes makes you forget about the shitty day you had, or reminds you, fuck, my parents are awesome, I should give them a call. Like, that's the content I want to create. I don't need to get a like from some stranger to feel like I'm doing I know I'm good at my job. For
Yeah.
20 straight years, I've done this job, and I've got enough people that stand in line every night to tell me that they like how I do my job. And so much of what we do in this world as artists is seek validation from people that don't give a shit about us, when you should be just turning inward in your circle. Look at the people that are at the shows that want to talk to you. They're going to be the ones that tell you like how your music saved them and how your music changed their life. And this is the year of me. If you don't like what I do, get fucked. I'm
Yeah.
going to focus on the people that like give a shit about me, because I give a shit about them. And I'm only going to put energy out to people that give me the same kind of energy. And man, I'm telling you, what are we, 13 days into this year? I feel like a different human being. Like, it feels so nice not to respond to people on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It feels nice to just put up a post and then just put my phone down and walk away.
Yeah.
It feels so fucking great not to have to interact with some asshole.
Yeah.
And
That
you
would
know,
never do anything anyway. 'Cause I'm
yeah,
6'1" and you're
yeah,
way taller than me. And it's
yeah.
just like,
Like nobody has ever come up to me at a show and been like, "Man, remember what you said to me on Twitter? Let's go." Like I'm a big boy.
yeah,
Like I'm a tall, scrappy redneck. Like there ain't many people that are gonna come up to. I don't care how drunk you are. In the history of this band, nobody's ever come up to the merch table and like tried to do something to me. Like plenty of people sit behind a keyboard and tell me like, you know, how dumb I am or how stupid I am or how uninformed I am. But I always tell them, I'm like, man, if you want to say it to my face, like I post where I'm going to be 6 months in advance. Buy a ticket, take the ride, man. Like I'm at the merch table every single night.
yeah,
Like I ain't hard to find. Like you can just go to the website. I guarantee at least once a year I'm coming within 50 miles of you. Come stand in line, talk to me. Tell me what you got to tell me. Most of the time, what I've found is even the people that adamantly disagree with me on a lot of stuff, they'll still come to the shows because they like the songs and the songs make them feel something. They have a history with the songs. But what they find out is that they come talk to me. I'm not like a trigger happy asshole that wants to make fun of them. I'm just a regular guy that wants to have this
yeah,
discourse, human beings talking to other human beings. Like I'm probably not going to make fun of you first if you come up to me and shake my hand and be like, man, good show. I've had plenty of people who come up and be like, man, great show. Like, I don't really get what you do on the internet, man. I don't agree with all the stuff you believe in, but I really like the show. I'm like, well, listen, I was like, I guarantee we agree on something. Let's talk a little bit until we figure out what we do agree on.
yeah,
What I've learned is most of these people who, you know, the world's got split up into red team, blue team these days. But what I've learned is if you get in front of somebody and you start talking to them, we've got so much more in common than the one thing that separates us. And so,
absolutely.
and so what I try to do face to face is I'll talk to you about college football. I'll talk to you about Texas barbecue. I'll talk to you about NASCAR. I'll talk to you about music. I'll talk to you about my favorite songwriters. What books are you reading? There's this show I just watched that blew my mind. You should know about that. And by the end of that conversation, we're not focusing on that one thing we disagree on that we have to vote for every 4 fucking years.
Yeah,
We're focusing on, holy shit, that guy's just like me. He just has a couple different experiences, couple different uh, thoughts on things. But for the most part, we're kind of the same. And
yeah,
that's what I remind them. I was like, there's a reason my songs connect with people, is because I'm tapping into something very, very human. Yes, I'm going to obviously have different, as a guy who's been to, 27 countries and who's traveled the country for 20 years, I'm going to have a different life view. I'm going to have a different worldview. I'm going to have a different set of priorities than somebody who maybe hasn't left their hometown their entire life. That's not a bad thing. It just means we're different. And that means we have to work a little bit harder to find that common ground. And that's the fun part. That's the fun part when people come up to the merch table. I'm not trying to argue with people. I'm not trying to fight people. I'm not trying to
yeah,
be this negative Nancy. I'm not trying to be the smart ass internet guy that always has a quip for somebody. I'm trying to find that connection. I'm trying to find the threads that bind us and pull at those a little bit to remind you that yeah, you might not like my rant about politics 3 months ago, but guess what? We're still the same person. We're still
yeah,
the same human. We got to live in the same world together. We just have usually different opinions on tax allocation. That's usually what it is, and that's the fun part about playing the show, man. Like I said, nobody's coming up to merch trying to fight me
yeah,
because if they did, one, I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. Like nobody's, I can hold my own, but then I've got a room of about 600 people that like me, and so yeah, I don't care how big a boy you are. Like you versus 600 kids ain't gonna be fun,
yeah,
especially when you're talking shit to the guy that they pay good money to see.
yeah, right. I just read the first time I walked up to the merch table. I remember you looked at me and you went, "You're the guy with the headphones."
Yeah, I think we
I was
have
like, "I am."
I think we have the same headphones.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was getting ready to say like I have these same exact headphones. I think that might have been what we talked about at first. It was like I think I have your headphones.
yeah. And it was funny. You were like, "You compared me to Def Leppard." I was like, "Yeah, the harmonies. It's it, I don't know if you're right. Like a lot of your songs are fun because they're like when I listen to them, I can be like, when I'm at the show, I know it. You can just tell, like, it's an anthem song for you and for the crowd.
Oh yeah, we've got some big sing-alongs
Yeah,
and cathartic sing-alongs, and those are fun. Like we get me as a songwriter. A lot of people are like, oh, BJ's like a depressing songwriter. But like if you come to my solo show, it gets pretty dark because it's just me telling stories and taking you on a ride. But if you come to the band show, I'd say 75% of the show is just these really big like rock and roll songs
yeah,
that people are singing along to and stomping their feet and clapping their hands and fist pumping and singing the lyrics back to me. And that's the connection part. That's how you know you got a song that resonated with somebody, is they're willing to stand in front of a crowd of people and sing it back to you off key. Like that's how you know that somebody's digging what you're doing, is they're willing to go in public and do something that they don't usually feel comfortable doing.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me, is when them big old corn-fed boys, them big old rednecks, when I see a tear fall down their eye, or when I see them cutting loose and singing back, that's how I know, like, okay, I got you outside of your comfort zone. Welcome to the party.
Yeah. And that, uh, I don't even know how to explain. It's just, I've never seen it before. Like everybody was like sobbing. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea what the song was about, because like
Yeah.
I was just like, I love everything about this right now. And people are like giving me consoling, like pats on the back, like it's gonna be all right, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's important, and I think a lot more people are coming around to it. I think we're seeing a really big rise in people paying attention to songs. The last couple of years, a lot of your really big, I'm good, like people that have kind of taken over some of the pop scene are just songwriters. You got Noah Kahan, you got Zach Bryan, you got these kids with acoustic guitars talking about their feelings, like, and people are paying attention. Like the rise of the song, like 2024 was a big year for just songwriters. And that's one of the things, like TikTok is just a human being sitting in front of a screen playing an acoustic guitar talking about their feelings, hoping that they're not alone, hoping that they find an audience, hoping that it resonates with enough people to one day they can play music for them in person instead of through a screen. And so, as somebody who's been writing songs for 20 years, I love seeing these kids making songwriting popular, because I'm a big believer in rising tides raise all ships. And if, the Noah Kahans and the Zach Bryans of the world are making kids fall in love with lyrics again, I might actually have a shot at being bigger than we are. And so I love it. I love the fact that people come to our shows. They're like, I heard about you through this songwriter. I heard about you through this songwriter. Because I'm getting to an age, I hate to admit it, like I'm one of the old guys now. I'm one of the guys that inspired some of these young guys to pick up guitars and start writing about their feelings. And so as they start getting successful, they'll name drop me in a magazine article or a radio interview. And then all of a sudden you got some 19-year-old kid who's like, well, I love what this person does. I'm going to go listen to this person they just named. And then they fall in love with your music. And so I hope songwriting and just country music in general keeps rising the way it is. It's entered into this weird kind of like pop music territory. Like country music is like, or let's use the word I hate using, Americana, is entering this phase where it's like selling out like arenas.
yeah,
You got Cody Jinks, you got Sergio Simpson, you got Tyler Childers, you got Zach, you got Isbell, you got these people that are walking into 10,000 person, 20,000 person rooms and selling them out. Like that used to only be reserved for massive radio hit bands or massive pop stars. And now you've got people who aren't even being played on the radio selling 30,000 tickets the day it goes on sale. Like that gives me hope as a songwriter, because we didn't have that 10 years ago.
yeah.
You had to sell your soul to country radio if you ever wanted to make it. And now you got guys who are like, fuck country radio. I don't need it anymore. And country radio has no retort to that, because they're like, oh, that guy who we're not playing is outselling every single person that we're playing. Think about that. Like Zach Bryan finished the year as the number 2 touring artist behind Taylor Swift.
It's crazy.
And pop country radio won't touch either one of them. Like, it begs the question is like, do we need radio anymore?
Yeah.
So now that kids who have internet connections are falling in love with songwriters, I don't give a fuck about writing a hook or a catchy song or a pop song. I care about writing something honest that might help a kid get through a really tough time. And we're seeing that pay off in tenfold.
Yeah.
You know, last year was better than the year before. The year before that was better than the year before that. And as long as this year's better in 2024, we're trending in the right direction.
Absolutely. Especially, it's funny is like what you were just talking about, like with the last 3 months of your life and everything. That's all in a soundtrack of the last track of your album, where if anybody has any question of what you're doing, why you're doing, it's like you said, like, could we be a little bit farther on? But you know what I mean? And
oh yeah, like I am clinically self-aware of where I am. Like I've been offered major record deals for the last 20 years, but every one of those deals ended with me giving something up. Whether it was giving up a piece of my art, my ownership, whether it was giving up final say on the songs that I write, whether it was me giving up who writes the songs. I've always said no, and I'm proud of that. 20 years into this career, you're not going to meet any artists that own 100% of their music. I own the publishing side and the mastering side of every single song I've ever written and recorded. There's not many people that get to do that. Yeah. Did it take me longer to get here? Yes. Could I have taken a shortcut and gotten maybe to this point a little quicker? Yes. But I would have had to give up something. And I can't tell you how much better I sleep at night knowing that I didn't have to give anything up, knowing that I got to where I wanted to be, playing by my rules. Whether or not I was right or wrong all the time doesn't matter. I got to play by my rules. And 20 years later, I get to stand on my little mountaintop. It ain't the biggest mountaintop, but it's my mountaintop. And I get to look back down and say, fuck, look how far this thing came. And we didn't have to sacrifice a bit of our integrity. We didn't have to sacrifice a bit of our authenticity to get here. Could it be bigger? Yes. Could I still take shortcuts? Yes. Could I go out tomorrow and write a Ford truck anthem? Of course I could. But I've made a career not doing that. So I got a good feeling that I'm not going to do that anymore. And so songs like Head Down, Feet Moving, like I'm telling you the secret. It's safe to say that we'd be a little further up the ladder if somewhere along the way I just learned how to shut my mouth. Like it doesn't get more simpler than that.
Yeah.
But then the next line is, but I'll never have to tell my daughter that I chose the mighty dollar over speaking up on the things weighing heavy on my mind. That one verse tells you everything you need to know about 40-year-old BJ.
Yeah, I felt that when you said that.
And then you get to the last verse, and maybe you hear that second verse, and you're like, man, that motherfucker's cocky. He's cocky about it. Like, he ain't even big. He ain't even as big as insert my favorite singer-songwriter. But then at the very end, I tell you, I'm like, I promise that I'll keep showing up as long as you do. That's all it is. It's like, I know exactly where I stand. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. And that helps me sleep at night. That helps me know that my daughter's going to grow up knowing that her dad, like, didn't cut corners, didn't sell a piece of his soul, spoke up when he needed to speak up, or at least when he felt like he needed to speak up, paid the consequences for it sometimes, but was a better person on the other side of it because he did it. Like, man,
totally agree.
And I tell people, they're like, do you wish it was any bigger? I was like, I hope it gets as big as it can possibly get without me giving anything up. That's how big I want it to get. I want it to get as big as possible as long as I don't have to give up who I am as a person. And if this is as big as it gets, if this is the peak, I played Red Rocks last year. I headlined the Ryman. Every year I get to play the Grand Ole Opry a few times. I get to put out records. I own a record label. I have an incredible band and crew that we go around about 100 days a year. I tour in a bus. If it never gets any bigger than this, awesome. Me and 10 other people make a living playing music for people. And we didn't have to sacrifice anything to get there. Like, if it never gets any bigger than this, man, I don't know what other people's definition of making it is, but I made it a while ago.
Yeah, it's totally authentic.
Man, and I love it. And I hope more people come to the table. I hope more people love my songs. I always tell people, what do you want your legacy to be? And I always tell people, like, I just want people to, when I'm gone, I want people, when they say my name, I want them to be like, he was a songwriter. He wrote good songs. They can say
Yeah.
whatever they want to. They can fruit that up a little bit. They can cuss me or they can praise me. But at the end of the day, I don't care whether you love me or hate me. I want them to be like, that dude spent his life writing songs.
Yeah. You definitely did, and you definitely are.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm like painfully self-aware these days. 20-year-old me could have never had this conversation. 20-year-old me could have never talked about, I couldn't have wrote the songs that I've been writing the last 10 years. I wasn't mentally or emotionally prepared to open up to strangers. Because you got to think, every night I'm walking in front of a group of strangers and having a therapy session.
Yeah.
I'm walking
Yeah.
into a rock club with 500 kids in it and be like, okay, guys, we're gonna feel some fucking feelings tonight. Let's have a good time. And I couldn't have done that at 20. I was too insecure with myself. I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
How was I going to tell somebody else to be comfortable in their own skin when I wasn't even comfortable in my own skin? But then fast forward to 40, I'm extremely comfortable in my own skin. I know exactly who I am as a person. I know what I believe in, what I don't believe in. And I'm pretty vocal about it. And I sleep pretty good at night knowing that, like, I didn't leave anything on the table. Like, nobody has to go to bed at night being like, I wonder what BJ Barham thinks about this.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you know. And I don't know if many people can say that.
Yeah. And if you want to know, ask at the merch table.
Yeah, come on to me at the merch table. Ask. Like, I am more than willing to always answer those questions for people.
Yeah, I did. When the line was all the way back, and I was like, man, he's gonna talk to everybody. That was just as cool to see.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours every night. I stand there at that merch table and I talk to, because it started when we first started touring. Like, we needed to sell like 5 CDs a night to make gas money to get to the next town. So it started out of necessity. I went to the merch table as soon as I got off the road because, you get a couple drinks in me, I could talk to anybody. And I would, you want to buy a CD? You want to buy a CD? Did you see the band on stage? That was us. You want to buy a CD? And then nobody wanted to come talk to me. So I always tell people, I'm like, I did this for years and nobody would come stand in line. So now that there's people standing in line, like, of course I'm going to stand here. And like, maybe one day it gets too big, but it hadn't got that big yet. We're still playing, anytime, like, we did Red Rocks opening for Red Clay Strays and Turnpike. And I got done and I walked off to the side of the stage and I sat there for 3.5 hours, taking pictures, shaking hands, signing records while my friends played. And there was a line all the way down to the bathroom. And I'm just standing there right outside of my dressing room talking to people. 10,000 people. And I did it for 3.5 hours. And it was awesome because you get to meet people. You get to, I always joke with artists. I'm like, I don't know why most artists don't do this. Like, you get to stand in line and somebody tells you how great you are for an hour every single day. Like, you don't need any positive affirmations. You just a bunch of strangers telling you how great you are. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But you also get to be really connected with your fan base and you get to hear the stories. It's not just like, oh, that song really changed me. It's like, let me tell you why this song changed me. Let me tell you what I went through that this song meant the world to me because of. And that just gives me a much better understanding of what I do and also how important it is that what I do.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just writing songs for you. You're not just putting songs out and making records. You're writing songs as soundtracks to people's highest moments and their lowest moments. And that is a power that a lot of people probably don't feel comfortable wielding, but I love it. I take it. That's a great responsibility. That's why I think it's important to keep writing good songs, is because you're writing songs that are going to help people through like the darkest moments of their life. And I think it's important. It's a gift that I can even write words that rhyme, yet alone write words that rhyme that also like change people's outlook on life. Like, I never take that for granted. Like, I wake up every day very, very thankful that I get to play a guitar and sing songs that matter to people. Like, that's huge for me.
Yeah, and you're definitely super gifted at it. Absolutely. But yeah, we're coming up on an hour.
Yeah. You got any other questions, man?
I can talk it as long as you can talk.
Yeah, I probably got like 5 or 10 more minutes. I
Okay.
gotta go put my daughter to bed. Uh, but yeah, any other questions you got? I'm pretty wide open. If you couldn't tell already.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you this. So I kind of, in the beginning, I kind of passed over American Aquarium because of the name.
Yeah.
Now, like, if you were like a record store clerk and somebody came in, obviously you're going to be one of the first ones in the A's. And I take out an American Aquarium record. I look at the title. What would you tell somebody what American Aquarium means?
So American Aquarium is a lyric from a Wilco song. Wilco is like one of my favorite bands, and they have a song called "I Am Trying to Break Your Heart." It's off of a record called Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. And the very, very first line of that song is, "I'm an American Aquarium drinker. I assassin down the avenue." I have no fucking idea what that means. Um, I thought it sounded good. And so when we booked our first show, they're like, "Hey, what name should we put on the marquee?" And that was the first thing that I was probably listening to that record. And a buddy of mine had mentioned it in passing that that'd be a funny band name. And so I was like, fuck it. American Aquarium's our band name. And then fast forward 20 years and it's still our band name. Yeah, I don't know what it means. A lot of people have made assumptions of what they think it means. Um, you know, it's funny because I've turned into this very observational songwriter. So a lot of people make that correlation to like, are you writing about like the American society as an outsider looking into like this tank? And I'm like, it's not that deep. I appreciate you really putting the time into thinking about it. But at the end of the day, it's like my favorite band had a lyric that nobody knew what it meant, and I thought it sounded good. And shout out to Sean Cretchen. He's the one that was told us we should name the band that. And yeah, it's 20. Like I always tell people, make sure you like your band name before you make a record, because once you put it on the first record, you can't go back and change your band name.
Yeah.
Like you lose a lot of traction when you change band names. And so, ever since we've never even thought about changing the band name. We're like, this is just who we are.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
it
crazy.
doesn't really have a great origin story. It's just a band that really inspired me, and I took one of their lyrics and I made a new band out of it.
That's awesome. I love stories like that. And
Yeah.
I would love to see like a Hunter S. Thompson Rolling Stone like review of, I would love to see like somebody like that with like try to like go deep into that name. And
Oh
then
yeah. Oh, trust me. There's some people like I've read some people's like analysis of the band name, and they're all really great. They're like you can tell that they've put a lot of thought into it. And I hope I don't bust their bubble when I'm like, oh no, man, it's not that deep. Like it's just it's a lyric from a band I really liked, and I thought it sounded cool. And uh, but I do love reading people's interpret. Same way with songs. I love reading people's interpretation of like, wonder what BJ was thinking when he wrote the song. Like, not many people have ever gotten it right, but like you read them and you're like, man, that's an interesting take. Like when people come up to me and say, hey, does this part of the song, does this mean that? And I was like, no, but like that's I can see how you could see that. Like that's a really cool take on it. So I love hearing when people, make up their, because that's what it is. Like that's what art is. You present this thing, and then people just apply it to whatever they need to apply it to, or explain whatever they need to explain that's going on in their life. So I love hearing what people think songs are about, what people think the band names about, what they think cryptic messages on the internet are about. Like I love that.
that's funny. But like it but the thing was like I always appreciate like especially in like this genre and like the singer songwriter a band name. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it does stand out. I just remember being like American Aquarium because I used to just go by the comments and I'm like I don't know what that is. And then it come to find out, I think the first song I heard of yours was "Burn, Flicker, Die." And I was just like, and I could just, it's weird. Like I could just see like I felt like you were like singing to like a huge crowd. It just has that cool space to it. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I just dig this out. And then like by the second verse, like the chorus, you can sing along. that was cool. And like obviously when I saw you live, and that was just like, yeah, it's definitely a life changing experience.
That's
And
that's definitely one of those songs that's like an anthem. It's
yeah,
a really big anthem. So
yeah, and definitely like, and I will say like, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes.
yeah,
And if you're upset American Aquarium isn't in your town, just wait 15 days because they're coming.
yeah. I always joke with friends. I'm like, no matter where you live in this country, I'm coming within a couple hours of you, at least once a year. Like, there's no excuse for like we're not one of those bands who like we're going on a world tour and we only go to like 4 states. Like, we every year we play about 40 states every single year,
Yeah.
and there's no excuse not to come see us.
Yeah.
And if you need to fly for a show, we've got a couple every year, like really cool places that you should like check off your bucket list. Kane's Ballroom, Green Hall, Ryman Auditorium, Troubadour in Los Angeles. Like, there's a lot of really great rooms to come see us in. So like, there's no excuse. So I always tell people, like, man, if you don't see us this year, it's probably your own fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I promise it's not our fault. I promise.
It's not. I missed the last time you were here because my dog had a vet appointment, and like, Rhonda and Jerry were like, "You better be there." I'm like, "Oh man, I don't know," and I couldn't swing it, but like, I just checked the schedule. I'm like, "They're back."
Yeah,
You're coming back.
I'm playing. I don't know which one's closer to you. I know we're playing State College, PA, and then we're playing Asbury Park. That might be the closest one to you.
Nah, I
Or
think
Delaware.
Delaware. Yeah, I live in Delaware. Then that's down the beach.
Yeah, we're playing Rehoboth. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're coming within like 3 shows on this next tour within like 3 hours of you.
I know, and you're saying this, and if he doesn't see me, he's gonna be like, "I told you, we did the podcast. Where are you?" I'm like,
It's all good, man. The good thing is we'll be back to Philly sometime this year anyway. So like, Philly's always a once a year place. So
yeah, and it was a shame because you were at the venue I really like. You were at World Cafe Live.
Really such a great room.
Yeah, I just like how it's set up. But yeah, man, I don't know if you got to get off here.
Yeah, I've got to run here. I can hear the girls outside the door bustling up. So thanks a ton for having me on, man. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and asking some really awesome questions.
Dude, thank you for doing this. This was really cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this was fun. That hour flew by. Like that was quick. I feel like we could talk for another hour. So yeah, we'll give it a year and I'll come back on and we'll answer all the questions we didn't get to.
Okay, cool.
And we'll have a new record to talk about. So
yeah, can't wait for it, man.
Heck yeah, man. Well, hopefully we see you at a show sometime. If not, don't feel any pressure for this next one. But next time I come come hang, man.
I will.
Awesome, dude.
Thanks
for taking the time, brother. We'll see you.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
Bye.